How did they feel when they heard like, oh, okay, I got to take the border toss tonight? Did you have guys who were kind of like, I don't know?
That is probably the best question I've ever been asked.
Hernandez, welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, man, you've been a staple in the pro wrestling business for so long. What made you want to become a pro wrestler?
Honestly, I didn't want to have a real job. I went through the high school and college football route. I played 2 years in arena football here in Houston, Texas. And you find out the money's not there, you got to find a job, support kids, support families and stuff like that. And I was doing powerlifting, and the WWF at the time came in the gym. And all of them came in the gym to work out before the show. And, hey, you look like you should be a wrestler. And gave me a number, and I started in Houston probably about 2 weeks after that.
So when you decided to go into pro wrestling, how did your family feel about that?
They were my family. I wanted to be a wrestler since I was like 5, 6 years old, and my family said no.
Really?
Get an education, do anything but that. Stay away from that stuff. Stay away from that fake stuff. And so it took to after going through college and all that, they said, okay, let's give it a try.
So your father was the Green Beret, correct?
Yes, sir, 30 years.
So what were his thoughts? Because I'm sure, growing up in a strict household or an army household, it must have been strange for him to hear that.
You have no idea. I mean, I graduated college at 265 pounds and lifting and doing powerlifting. I got up to about 310, 320. My dad's 5'8", about 160.
Right.
I'm still terrified of that man. He was a Green Beret for 30 years, went to Vietnam 3 different times. He's like a real life G.I. Joe. He speaks like 7 different languages. And he's the real deal, man.
The most interesting man in the world. So when you first started wrestling, you mentioned money. It's known that for people who get into pro wrestling, like their rookie years, it's difficult to make money. How difficult was that for you?
Very. I mean, you have a wife and kid at the time, and you're spending every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday to train. For 6, 7, 8, even a year, up to a year. And then I was very fortunate at the time. I started making $50 right off the bat for every performance I did. So, I mean, most guys start at 10, free, $20. I thought I was a superstar making $50. I mean,
it's crazy. Isn't it crazy for you to think back that making $50 at a pro wrestling show was kind of like almost like a you made it moment?
Honestly, my number one goal when I started training was to at least break even for the money I paid to train. That was my number one goal. Was if I could break even, okay, it's not that bad.
So in the early 2000s, you made your way to TNA.
Yeah.
Did you think at the time that you were ready to make that leap to national television?
In 2003, of course not. I was very fortunate. I went to Japan, went to Mexico a lot from 2000, 2002, and 3, and nothing prepares you for TV wrestling. Nothing does. I wrestle in Japan on television. I wrestle on AAA in Mexico on television. You can have a 30-minute match, and they just edit it to make it a 10-minute match. Right. Not in the United States. United States, if your match was supposed to go 8 minutes, it better go 8 minutes. And if they don't go 8 minutes, guess what? You're gonna give them a few chances to fix it, and after that, next guy.
Done. So when you got there, did you have someone who helped you along or mentored you?
Not until 2006.
Right.
When we started doing the LAX, Latin American Xchange, myself, Homicide and Konnan. Homicide is a legend in the East Coast and big icon for Ring of Honor.
Right.
I was very, very fortunate to shut the hell up and let him just tell me what you want me to do and let's do this. Because, he's been around TV wrestling. He's been around that kind of atmosphere. I'm bounced around from, Texas to Mexico to Japan. So I have no idea what style I need to do. So, I mean, I was very fortunate to be blended with him, and it worked out really good.
Man, speaking of LAX, Latin American Exchange, that was a crazy time. I think that's probably, I'm not the only one, but probably one of the best factions in pro wrestling history. How did that idea of LAX come together?
Well, it was a combination of Conan, Jeff Jarrett, and Dutch Mantel. They all came out with that militant, take no prisoner style wrestling. And it was the real deal because, I mean, we had strict rules. I remember we'd be wrestling and, how you come down through the aisles, there's fans trying to give you five and stuff like that. We had strict rules not to engage with any person that was white. Wow. So if a white dude plugged this 1 of 5, we just looked at him. So, I mean, the first 2 or 3 months, people were, it seemed like it was a real deal.
Why did you think it worked?
It was just the perfect dynamic. I mean, you have an excellent mouthpiece with Conan. You have a Puerto Rican version of Joe Pesci, who you don't know what's going to happen with Homicide. He's just staying there when he's in trouble. Gives me a look and tells it's like the big monster, sick him. Here I come, boom, boom.
There's one thing I want to talk about. It was an incident, not even an incident. It was part of a storyline in 2006. I think it was you, Homicide, and Conan in the middle of the ring, and Conan was threatening to burn the American flag.
Yes.
So knowing that your dad was a Green Beret, did he tell you how he felt about that?
That was the last time we watched the show.
Wow.
He didn't care if it was an angle, a story, or whatnot. He was never watching the show again. I mean, he'll see, he might see clips on social media or something like that, but he refused to watch the show after that. I mean, you have to realize at the time, the Orlando PD police chief was threatening to shut the show down because he thought it was real. So, I mean, it was a really hectic time. I mean, we were just blistering hot where the fans were booing us, but they were yelling at us, and with the way Conan would talk, it would just blend the realms of reality. So you don't know what's going on.
So what was that like working with Conan?
It was difficult because, I mean, he knows his role. He knows his spot. He knows where to be. And remember, I came from Indies in Mexico and Japan, so I'm still learning where I need to be at. So, I mean, it was very difficult when he knows in his sleep, he can wake up and be right in the right spot. Homicide the same way. I'm on edge because I'm like, here's a lucha legend. So even if he's never going to screw up. Here's a Ring of Honor legend. He's never screw up. So just blame the big guy if anything goes bad. So, I mean, it was very, very, very stressful at first.
Do you look back at that time, the LAX, in 2006 when you guys first formed? Do you look back on that as one of the best moments in your career?
Who would have thought that your career would go backwards? 2006, 7, 8, 9. I mean, you were a skyrocket like a monster.
Yeah. And
they changed ownership. They changed management. Management didn't like LAX. They didn't like certain things. They broke us up. And you never saw, I mean, you have to realize people could say what they want about LAX. We were only a team on TNA from 06 to 09 before they broke us up. So, I mean, no telling how much more damage we could have done if we were given a little bit more lifeline to be together.
The border toss is one thing I really want to ask you about because it's an insane move. I love seeing it. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's no secret to the people who know me well. I'm a big fan of the late ECW, and one of my favorite wrestlers at the time was Mike Awesome.
Right.
He'd throw him off his shoulder as far as he could. And, I'm a big powerlifter at the time. I go, no problem. I'll raise his edge and throw as far as I can. And I remember I'd be in practice, training in schools, and unfortunately, especially when I was going to Japan, stuff like that, 2002 and 3, I would make all the students take at least 3 before they left practice.
Oh, wow.
Ranging from 100 pounds to a 300-pound person. So there was about 15 people. So you have to perfect it somehow,
When you wrestled someone, going in the back, you're going over the match. How did they feel when they heard like, oh, okay, I got to take the border toss tonight? Did you have guys who were kind of like, I don't know?
That is probably the best question I've ever been asked. Because I can look at you right now in your eye and lie to you and say, yeah, everybody was comfortable with it. They were adamant. There were people adamant before we even talked about the match. I'm not taking that. Adamant. I mean, even when I returned to the company, in March, there's people that I wrestled in March that said they're not taking it. Or is there any other move I can do besides that? And some guys are a warrior do it, and I understand. I mean, it's your body. You want to wrestle 3 or 4 times a week. I understand. It's because there's going to be a huge trust factor. But I mean, if I'm known for that move, and they're giving me a nice push that way, the chance of you having to take that is pretty great. So
you really didn't have to do too much convincing. It was already pretty much set in stone.
Yes, sir.
In 2010, I want to ask you about this. It was Triplemania. You got up to the top of the cage. Probably one of the biggest cage jumps I've ever seen. Can you talk us through that? Because I think you hold some sort of record too. At
the time, yes. Now with wrestling, they do backflips and stuff off. But I mean,
yeah.
I'm a big guy, and I like to jump, do fly, and I like to throw people around. And they wanted something very spectacular for this match. And they go, hey, man, can you jump out the cage? Yeah, no problem. Got it, no problem. Didn't even look, no problem.
No fear?
No, because it was, no, wait, let me get to the main point. So okay. Just the top of the cage. Yeah, no problem. Here we go. Then they come back to me a little bit later and say, hey, you might not be able to get the truss disconnected from the cage in time. It might take 30, 40 minutes. So is it okay if you jump off the truss instead? Yeah, no problem, man, no problem. I had no idea what a truss was. Yeah, whatever, So I get out. So the day of the show, I get there and I go, I'm speechless. I just agreed to do something in front of 25,000 people. And 2 weeks before that, I hurt my hamstring really bad. Where they had to give me injections in my hamstring just to I could jog. Damn. So it was hard climbing up that cage. I remember when I got to the top of the cage, and you can see it on that video. I get to the top of the cage. There's a slight pause. And that pause, I'm literally, please, can the lights go black so I can just climb down so no one can see me? Because I didn't want to do it. And then finally, and you saw me do a stupid pose afterward and all that. So, I mean, it was cool then, but I don't think I want to do that again. And
you were wrestling in front of a Mexican crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And so what's the difference between a Mexican crowd and North American crowd? I always hear that, the Mexican crowd is more like a soccer crowd. They're rabid, they're right into it. Like everything to them is real.
There's only 2 kinds of crowds. There's the Mexican crowd and the England crowd, and then everybody else. The Mexican crowd, if you're a heel or rudo, they're going to boo you mercilessly. They don't care. You can do the coolest moves, they're going to boo you. And if you like to interact with them, they have those big beer tubs where the guy comes and sells beer. There's guys that will buy the ice in the beer tub to throw the ice at you. Wow. So it's not like in the States where, hey, someone throws something in the ring, hey, you're out of here. No, there's 25,000 people there. So how do you know who threw the ice? How do you know who threw the water bottles? How do you know, it was rough. I remember I did a big dive. I was, talking trash after the after the move. The flag sitting on this. I'll go. All of a sudden you hear, "Hey, Hernandez." I turn around. A big block of ice about as big as my palm hits me right in the forehead.
Oh man!
And I just ducked. It was rough. I mean, I love the Mexican crowd so rabid. They're awesome. Same thing as the UK. At least the UK stuff, they don't throw stuff, but they're really rabid about their chants and stuff.
So you've done a lot in your career, and you've recently returned to Impact Wrestling. Why did you decide to come back?
Well, that's for myself. That's one of the places where I got started on television. So, as your career goes full circle, that's where you want to end. Obviously, I want to try to fix all the small things, in my career that I couldn't fix earlier, help the younger guys out, maybe give them some pointers to help their career out. We have the new management with, Scott Demore, D'Lo Brown, and guys like that. These are the guys I was hanging out with and joking around with 10, 15 years ago with LAX. So, I mean, it's such a relaxed atmosphere. It's so cool. The only thing difference is, when you're in the locker room with these guys, and I feel like, the Iceman, who they fall out from 20,000 years ago, because here's these 25-year-old kids talking about PS5 or PS4 and whatever video game was coming out. I'm like, what? So, I mean, I'm usually twirling my thumbs. We're talking to someone that's over the age of 40,
Right. Where does wrestling in front of no crowd rank for you?
Not at the top, I tell you that. Because, I mean, you got to realize, like we were talking about just a second ago, wrestling in front of 25,000 people that are rabid, that are booing you or cheering you. I wrestled with a great colleague in his promotion. The most we ever had in his promotion was 70,000 people in India. So to go from that to a ref, a cameraman, and a timekeeper, and so there's no reaction. So a good sequence, you have no idea how that's going to play off until you get people who watched it and they commented, on social media. So, I mean, it takes, 2 or 3 weeks later to get any kind of feedback, any positive feedback besides the cameraman, the timekeeper and the ref and the guys in the back who watched it. It can be very, very frustrating.
So what do you have left to accomplish as a pro wrestler?
I would think I would like to, see how far I can go in the singles run, honestly. And make no mistake about it, before I get done wrestling, I do want to do one more last ride with Homicide and see what we can do with that. Because, let's be realistic, we're both getting up there in age, but LAX at 85% or 80% is still better than a lot of these kids at 100. So, I mean.
So how much do you think you have left in the tank then, if you want to do another run? Do you feel like you have another, 5 years, 10 years?
I got my wife looking at me right now.
Does she want you to stop?
Oh, what do you think? You want me to stop?
You can answer the man honestly.
I've been telling her for the last 3 years, give me 2 more years.
Every year, I hear the same thing.
You always hear from wrestlers, but even like The Undertaker now with this documentary that they've been putting out, it's always tough to say goodbye, right?
Well, most definitely, for myself, honestly, if I feel I cannot be, athletically and physically, strength-wise, perform these moves I like to do, then yes, it's obviously time for me to walk away. So when you see me, I can't do the dive on the top rope no more. All right, hey guys, the wife said I gotta go, so let's go.
Yeah. Well, dude, in your last match against Moose, I mean, drop kicks, power bombs, lifting, and he's a big man, so you obviously still, have a lot left. That's why I asked that question, because I feel like, I'm not in your body. I don't know how you feel, but based on what I see, and I think a lot of fans would say the same thing, is that, listen, Hernandez he's still got a lot.
I would like to think so, but And you come home to reality, and the wife goes, "Hey, why are you walking funny? Why is your knee not bending out of the way? Why are you leaning this way? And you got to go to cryotherapy, and you got to go to the chiropractor and stuff like that." So she looks at that aspect.
So last thing I'll ask you, what do you do in your spare time away from wrestling? Because I try to do a lot of research before these interviews out of respect for my guest, and it's hard to find out a lot about you. You know, I saw that you played football before wrestling you went to Kilgore, you played in arena football, you did some acting, but there's really not much about you. First of all, is that done on purpose? And what do you do outside of wrestling?
Yes. I mean, my private time is my private time.
Right.
You know, I understand I'm on the camera. I understand I'm on the clock for personal appearance and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But when I come home, I'm not Supermax, because guess what? Shawn still has to take the trash out. He's saying Shawn is still gonna wash some damn dishes. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you could be, hey, I'm Supermax, hey, go wash them dishes. Shit. You be sleeping on the couch. You know? But I mean, for myself, my wife got me into yoga. Don't laugh.
No, I'm not laughing. I've done it before, so I can't laugh at you.
You know, it's very challenging, to be honest. And I mean, you know, you probably can tell with certain things I post is, you know, I'm huge into the History Channel of Ancient Aliens. That's my show.
Yeah.
They have like 15 seasons. And, you know, my wife is, you know, a science teacher. You know, she knows all the ins and outs of that stuff. So I like that they challenge. And if it were just on what science that she knows, the show would be like 10 minutes long. But you got to have the little antagonists and the what ifs to make it 43 minutes. I mean, I like it.
So you got yoga and listening to the wife at home and watching the History Channel. We've got it covered.
Hey, that's it, man.
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Not a problem, sir. Thank you.